Hello everybody, welcome back to Waffles RC. Very energetic because the views are up because of the Mercedes. I knew that video would do really well because it's very obvious that there's a lot of people out there that want to put these together but don't have $1,000 to spend on an RC. Very happy that a lot of you have taken the advice, and I hope whatever you're building turns out absolutely awesome. But just remember, you made it, so it's absolutely awesome. So what are we doing now that we've done a lovely Mercedes? And this was already on the plan list that I have in my head of all the RCs that I want to build, but this was the next one anyhow. So by popular demand, we are going to be building tube chassis rock buggy. It's been requested by a number of you, and I've wanted to do it. I actually wanted to do a 6 scale, but the parts for the axial SES6, they're so expensive. Like even the aftermarket stuff, I can't afford something like that. So we're gonna do a 10 scale. Don't know what this is gonna look like just yet. Just kind of gonna go with what my soul tells me of what to build and keep building it out from there. So let's get started. All right, so as you just saw, we have all of our tubes, also known as 3/16 plain steel. It's solid, so it's going to take a bit to bend it, but got ourselves a vise, got ourselves a cutoff wheel, and got ourselves some hammers. So we are going to make something that will hopefully look like something. Okay, so far the only plan that I have is need to have center section, which is what this plate's going to be, and I have a mock-up transmission. This is the bad transmission that came out of the red Jeep, the rear steer. So this is going to be the style of transmission that I'm going to use, but it's going to be a 2-speed, so hopefully it'll be a bit faster than all the other ones, but still able to crawl. That's kind of the goal. I also have the blown motor from the Bronco, the TRX4, just for a size comparison, so that way I know, get my center section, that everything fits. So now I can cut this piece off right along here. Once I get this cut out, make sure that everything fits nicely, then we're just going to start adding tubes until we make it look like something. Also, I wanted to run a bunch of shocks on it because, well, why not? I've had these for a while. These are trailing arms, but you can run dual shocks. Most cases where people run trailing arms, you have a coil over and then just a shock. So that's what I'm going to do by taking the coils off of a coil over, because it's cheaper. This will dictate part of our length because this is going to go on the rear. The front's going to be a normal triangulated. Don't have the axles yet, but they should be here hopefully tomorrow. But we're going to just start building, use the measurements that I have off the website of where I got the axles, and start building a chassis, see what we can come up with. Okay guys, this is what I have so far. I have the skid plate and these bars. Motor sits right there. I did not drill the holes yet because I realized until I get the actual transmission that I want, the output on a 2-speed, the rear output is a little bit further backwards, so I don't want to drill the holes for this just yet, but it does fit inside of there with room to play. I cut both of these bars at the exact same length, or I guess we'll call them frame rails. Drilled holes in them in the exact same locations, so that way our trailing arms have a place to mount, and our control arms for the front also have a place to mount. So I am going to go with a longer wheelbase than a normal like buggy style, mainly because of the trailing arms, and I like the stability of a longer wheelbase. Hopefully it won't be too long. I really don't think it won't be any, I don't think it'll be any longer than any of those. Definitely not as long as that, but I think most of those, it should be comparable. That's where I'm going to try to keep it. So let's start building cage work. Don't know what I'm going to make yet, so I'll start with a main hoop, maybe a roof, some door bars possibly. I don't know. I'm just gonna see where the bending takes me. All right, I got a little carried away. Rather than just making the main hoop, I made the whole cap. And yes, we did have to use my favorite tool, but this is about the cab structure that I was hoping for. Going to add a lot of reinforcements and also some door bars that'll go across here. On certain places of this thing, I'm going to have sheet metal, like skin covers, that will bolt on and take off. Don't know how I'm going to do that other than cut it out, but we'll figure that out. You have the transmission goes here. These, yes, I know, are in the way, front and back. I'm cutting those out. I use those to just help me line everything up and get the structure. Under here, I'm going to do some both sides, just come up from the bottom of the frame there up to here with some sheet metal, so that way it's got a good slide on it. But that's where we're at. So next steps in this process would be, well, I'm just going to keep adding bars to this, strengthen this all up, and then we'll start adding front and rear stuff. So before I do the rear, I got to get the trailing arms mocked up essentially, so I know how long to make the body. I want the tires that I'm going to put on this, I want them to be past the body, so basically you could back up to a wall and go right up it. Same thing for the front. So I got to figure out the control arms that I want, but I got to make sure that the tires that I got clear everything. So let me just add a bunch more bars to this, strengthen it up. I might cut those out once I get it all strengthened up. Actually, I'm going to leave those until I do the both sides. That way it's all connected a little better. But we'll add some door bars, top bars, crossbars, windshield bars, all that. Just going to add bars. All right, I will admit I've gotten a little carried away. Got a few bars in here. It is still hot. That's why I'm touching it. See, everything is triangles, essentially. I don't know what that shape is, but you get it. But I have all the bars going to other bars because on a real rock crawler, you want load transfer coming from, say, you hit right here. It's going to go down this bar, down here, to down here. Now, being an RC car, is that really something to worry about? No. But remember, we're building a scale rock crawler. So, real rock crawlers have a lot of bars. They don't skimp out on bars because they're worried about the weight. I'm not worried about the weight because all of my RCs are heavy. And this thing is going to be ridiculous. So why not just add a bunch of bars? This is just the cab. I still have the whole back to do, the front to do. Imagine how much stuff I can put on this thing. Let's keep going with it. Next, I'm going to put the trailing arms here on the back. It's still really hot, so I'm going to put the trailing arms on the back so that way I know how long to make the cage. Basically what I'm going to do is have the cage pretty much end right where this trailing arm ends, so that way the axle and the tires stick out very far and we can keep it shorter for lightness. Remember, it's an RC car. Yeah, mine's going to be heavy. It's not going to get entered in any competition because there is no way I'm sure that this thing is legal in any way. I mean, this cab right here probably weighs more than the competition trucks. And I don't have anything but a cab. But this is for fun. Remember that. This is for fun. So, let's keep going. So there's the trailing arms. I have them mounted up right there. Just give me a basic idea. So now I'm just going to make part of the cage come somewhere out to here. And then connect it all to this. I don't know, I'll figure out some crazy bar design, but I'm going to start off with just going from right here back to here, making basically a main hoop like I did this main hoop, and start adding bars from there. But I'll show you the first piece after I get that made. Okay, so there is the back structure, just the top part of it. I still have to connect down to the bottom, but the trailing arms came along here. Coilovers are going to sit somewhere in here. That's the back half for right now. So I have been measuring a little bit with measuring tape just to get basic measurements, but all these random bars that I'm putting in here, even these two bars, the top ones, I just hold it up to it. Once I get my basic measurement down, I just kind of fit it up, mark it, cut it. So if you want to see that process of me just adding bars to add bars, I'll do that real quick, and you can see the madness that is my head when it comes to doing stuff like this. Just realized a couple of things. One, I'm pretty much just adding bars to add bars. If this was a real size truck, all of these bars would make perfect sense. As an RC car, this is overkill. Two, and more importantly, wear proper safety equipment. I realize at the very end of that time lapse that I was not wearing safety glasses. I wear gloves, but they're not the right gloves, so take that into consideration as well. But I know a lot of amateur RC enthusiasts watch this, and I know there's a lot of YouTubers out there that like look down on wearing safety equipment. I try to. Obviously, I forget. Nobody's perfect. So my message is wear safety equipment. I will start wearing my safety glasses and get a little bit better at that to set a better example, because that was not smart to grind all that metal without safety glasses. So got the back half on, as you can see, lots of bars, all utterly pointless, but it looks good. And I say utterly pointless just on the basis of it's an RC car. You don't need this much structure for an RC car. What am I protecting? I'm protecting the transmission and the electronics. That's all that's getting protected in this thing. But you guys wanted a buggy? There's a buggy. Well, 2/3 of one so far. Pretty much I'm going to call it for the evening. Need the axles so I can place everything, especially the front. I need to make sure about turning and how far to put it out. The rear axle, I need to make sure that I have enough space and correct area to mount the coilovers and the shocks. Rear axle is going to be about back here, so she gonna be long, but sure does look good. So see you when I get some axles. And welcome to the next day, and look at how good my chassis come along. Just kidding, it's right there. This is the Bronco. Finally got the new motor for it, and we're working on this because I need parts to keep going on that. So this, we got us a new motor. And because I wanted to be weird with this thing, did a Spectrum 4000 kV brushless, because why not? Probably won't crawl, but it'll be fast, hopefully. I don't know, let's put it all in and see. It's the same exact motor that I have in this mud truck, and that's really fast. Also discovered yesterday when I was showing somebody this that have a broken axle shaft. More maintenance. But I'm going to do the smart thing. Instead of maintenance, I'm going to upgrade my RTR. Got to have your priorities straight. Alright, so I got the Bronco running. So here's the difference between a crawler motor and the one I just put in it. Here's the Mercedes at full speed. And now here's the Bronco at half throttle. Let's see if it'll even do full throttle. Nope. Let's see if it has any subtlety off-road. Nope. But one good thing about the TRX4 is low gear. The low gear on the transmission is not working, so now I gotta fix that. But it runs, it drives. I'll wait for some parts to show up and we'll get back on the buggy. Okay guys, parts came in. We have our axles. So with these, yes, knockoffs, don't know the name brand. But as you can see, no portals. Same with the front, no portals. Did that for a couple reasons. One, I don't have any that are the mud truck is non-portal. Crawler wise, I don't have any that are non-portal. So, figured I'd give it a shot. And I liked the mounting tabs that it had on the top for the upper control arms, front and rear. They're angled already, so that should make my life a lot easier. And they look pretty beefy, so we'll see how they do. Now let's see if my measurements were correct for everything that I did with these axles. And there we have it. Axle does stick back a little bit further, but that's what I wanted. So I should be expecting this. So it's going to be quite long, mainly because of these trailing arms, but I can probably shorten up the front. May look a little funny, but there you go. Now I have to make upper control arms. As you can see, I did dual mounts. I have coilover and a shock, also known as, that's just a coilover that I took all the springs off of. It's more for aesthetics. I think it looks cool. I don't usually run oil in these things, so that is purely for aesthetic reasons. Let me make some upper control arms and some mounts for it, and then we'll call it good on this part, and then we'll get started on the front next time. So, quick lesson while welding. Don't leave paper towels next to your workstation where you're welding. It's convenient for cleanup when you're working with grease, but slightly flammable. Please don't tell my wife. And there we are. Have our upper links mounted. They're welded more on the back, you just can't see it. But we now have functioning rear end. So I will have to do an alignment on it once I get the front end on it, because I'm sure this is not straight by any means. I did leave some adjustments in these upper arms so that way I can adjust it. So if we need to, then I will be able to. Now I have one more thing for this video, and then we're going to close it out, just to give you an idea of what the final product of this thing is going to look like. So here's the tire that I went with, and the wheel. And to give you a size comparison, that's right, I went absolutely gigantic. They're 5.9 tall tires, 5.9 inches, and that many millimeters. So my whole thought process behind this was go absolutely gigantic. So huge tires. Don't think I'll have too much issue with ground clearance. It would probably be better if I had portals, but I did not get portals. I wanted straight axles. Everything still cycles as it should, and the tires rub. So I'm going to get some spacers for it, push these wheels further out. I'll have to do the same with the front, most likely. But I'd have to say that that's not too bad for building it without having any of the axles in front of me, and ordering wheels and tires without having the axles. So if you get the measurements right, from as long as they're right on the website that you order them from, you should be able to make these things pretty well. Alright, so that's it for this week. Next week we'll start working on the front half or the front third of this that you can't see because of where I have the camera. Start working on that, get the suspension all hooked up, get the front end portion on. Then I got to figure out a place to mount the battery, because I'm realizing now all this very fun tube work that I'm putting on here, I haven't thought about a place to put the battery. And my drive shafts are going to be, at least the rear is going to be quite long, because this thing as it sits right now without a front end on it is 14.5 inches long without a front end. So it's going to be quite long, but that was my hope for it anyhow. So I'll have a good long wheelbase, probably try to get the battery up in the front. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards anyhow. Keep most of the weight up front, make it like a real competition crawler, except there is no competition in the world that this thing would be allowed to be entered, because it has 6-inch tall tires. So from Waffles RC, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something, like don't set your garage on fire and wear safety glasses. I failed at both of those, so hopefully you guys don't. So we'll see you next week. We'll get back onto this thing and just keep adding more bars. I have a few more fun ideas for it too that I want to try out. So thank you again for watching.